In the quiet hum of existence, before time was marked by shadows and sun, there was a hunger, not of the belly but of the soul. A yearning for a truth that felt just beyond reach, a whisper carried on the wind. This hunger drew them in their thousands. They came from dusty towns and rolling hillsides, their hearts heavy with the burdens of the world, their eyes searching for a glimmer of hope. They gathered by the shores of a placid sea, a sea that had witnessed ages come and go, its waters holding the reflections of countless stars. Before them stood a man whose words were not of this earth. He spoke of kingdoms built not of stone, but of love. He spoke of treasures that could not be stolen, of a peace that surpassed all understanding. His voice was a river washing over them, cleansing their weary spirits. The sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, a masterpiece of divine artistry. As daylight faded, a new hunger arose, this one more familiar. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a symphony of rumbling stomachs and anxious whispers. There were 5,000 men, not counting the women and children who stood with them, their faces etched with the day's journey and the growing need for sustenance. His companions, his closest followers, came to him, their brows furrowed with worry. "This is a desolate place," they said, their voices laced with practicality, "and the hour is already late. Send the crowds away, so they can go into the villages and buy themselves something to eat." Their logic was sound, their concern genuine. But the man saw beyond the immediate. He saw not a problem, but an opportunity. He saw not a multitude of hungry bodies, but a garden of souls ready to blossom. He turned to them, his gaze calm and unwavering, a universe of compassion in his eyes. "They do not need to go away," he replied, his voice a gentle anchor in their sea of anxiety. "You give them something to eat." A silence fell, thick with disbelief. They looked at their empty hands, their meager resources. How could they possibly feed so many? It was a task for kings, for armies, not for a small band of wanderers. One of them, Philip, voiced their collective doubt. Even 200 denarii would not buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. He exclaimed, the impossibility of the situation weighing heavily on his words. The man simply asked, "How many loaves do you have?" "Go and see." It was a simple question, yet it held the key to the impossible. Andrew, another of his followers, a practical man, soon returned. His voice was a mixture of hope and apology. "There is a boy here," he said, gesturing to a young lad whose eyes were wide with a mixture of awe and shyness. "He has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish." Andrew paused, then added what everyone was thinking. "But what are they among so many?" 5 small, humble loaves. 2 salted fish, likely the boy's entire meal. In the face of an ocean of need, it was but a single drop, a gesture of futility, an offering of insignificance. But in the eyes of the man, it was everything. He saw not the smallness of the gift, but the vastness of the boy's heart. He saw a seed of faith, a willingness to give all that he had, without question, without hesitation. It was in this simple, pure act of giving that the miracle was waiting to be born. "Have the people sit down," he instructed, his voice resonating with a quiet authority that stilled all doubt. The ground was covered in a carpet of green grass, a natural amphitheater prepared by creation itself. His followers, their uncertainty now mingled with a spark of curiosity, began to organize the crowd, seating them in groups of 50s and 100s. A sense of order descended upon the chaos, a quiet anticipation replacing the anxious murmurs. The sea breeze whispered through the gathering, and the last rays of sunlight kissed the faces of the multitude. The man took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looked up to heaven, his eyes connecting with the source of all things. In that moment, he was a bridge between the finite and the infinite, the earthly and the divine. He gave thanks. It was not a plea for more, but a gratitude for what was already there. A profound acknowledgement of the abundance hidden within scarcity. He broke the loaves, a sacred, deliberate act. Then, he gave them to his disciples to distribute among the people. He did the same with the 2 fish, dividing them for all. And then, the impossible began to unfold. A quiet, cascading miracle. The disciples moved through the crowds, their baskets never emptying. Hands that reached out with a single loaf found themselves holding more. Fish that were divided seemed to multiply in their very grasp. A sense of awe washed over the multitude. The gnawing hunger in their stomachs was replaced by a wonder that filled their souls. They all ate, and they were satisfied. The child who had given his small lunch, the old man who had walked for miles, the mother comforting her tired baby, everyone was filled. There was no longer any lack, only a profound, shared sense of abundance. The food was more than just bread and fish. It was a taste of grace and nourishment of the Spirit. It was a tangible sign that in the presence of true faith, the universe bends its own rules. When everyone had eaten their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." This was not a miracle of excess, but of perfect provision and respect for the gift. They went through the crowd, and the fragments they collected filled 12 baskets. 12 baskets of leftovers, far more than the 5 loaves and 2 fish they had started with. The crowd, witnessing this, was stirred. They saw not just a man, but a prophet, a king, a fulfillment of ancient promises. Their material hunger was satisfied, but a deeper spiritual hunger had been awakened. This was never just a story about food. It is the eternal story of what happens when we offer our small, seemingly insignificant selves to a power greater than our own. We all have our 5 loaves and 2 fish. Our humble talents, our limited resources, our small acts of kindness, our flickering flame of hope. We look at the vast hunger of the world, the suffering, the loneliness, the despair, and we say, "But what is this among so many?" We feel small, powerless, inadequate. Yet the voice of eternity whispers back, "Give what you have." The miracle is not in the size of our offering, but in the act of offering it. It is in the surrender of our logic, in the trust that what is given in love will be multiplied beyond measure. The 12 baskets of leftovers remind us that the divine economy is one of abundance, not scarcity. When we give freely, we do not lose. We create a space for more to flow in, for more to be shared. The emptiness we fear is an illusion. The true emptiness is a closed hand, a heart that is afraid to give. So look within. What are your 5 loaves and 2 fish? Do not despise their smallness. Bring them forth. Offer them with a grateful heart. Look up to the heavens and trust. You may not feed 5,000, but you will witness a miracle. You will see your love, your effort, your small act of faith multiply in ways you could never imagine. You will become a vessel for a grace that satisfies the deepest hungers of the human heart. For the greatest miracle is not the feeding of the multitude, but the transformation that occurs when one small soul dares to believe in the possibility of more. In that single act of faith, the universe is reborn. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story resonated with your spirit, please consider subscribing to God Story Reborn for more tales of light and rebirth. May you find the courage to offer your own loaves and fish. Peace be with you.